We are back with On the Road of Recovery with John from Medina. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks so much for coming out and joining us.
Mm-hmm.
Can you start off by discussing what your childhood was like?
So, I actually had like a pretty good childhood. I lived with both of my parents, who are actually still together. I have two younger sisters. I was the oldest of three. I lived in the Carolinas. We lived in I don't know, I guess it wasn't necessarily low income, but for the time it was like low middle class neighborhood, houses and stuff though, not apartments. I was very lucky. And in my neighborhood, it was pretty good. We had neighbors. We went to church a lot. We had a lot of good friends and family in church. That was like kind of like where I was. I started going to Christian school when I was in third grade. I remember like interesting facts about like with I actually experienced child sexual abuse starting at about, it was like 6 to 9 years old. There was like, I think, some grooming stuff, and then 9 years old was when and like it officially got started. I remember it wasn't quite as traumatic as I thought it was at first, and then it kind of grew into a little bit more, I don't want to say violent, but a little more rough kind of stuff, and it lasted till probably I was like 12 or 13 till they moved. I had like, I guess, a little bit of a difficult time with that. But other than that, like family, friends, Christian school, it was pretty good. I moved back to regular school my 10th grade year. And my parents were kind of like, I knew that it was ninth grade. I knew there was a change in there. It was ninth grade, there was a change. And I knew I started feeling different. I knew that I was probably gay. I was concerned because I grew up in a Christian home, so I thought that it was bad. And I thought that I was going to hell. I really just kind of at that point stopped caring. Like I had to be somewhat who I was, but I didn't really know how to do that then. I didn't have a lot of support except for some friends that knew. And ninth grade was when the first time I kind of dabbled with coming out. And then I remember like smoking pot. I smoked pot when I was really young, probably about 9 years old with those people. But I didn't know what it was. They called them lollipop sticks. We would smoke lollipop sticks. And so like, that's just what I thought it was, and I remember having those things, like that feeling. But the first time I smoked pot when I was like, I was just going into 10th grade. It was my ninth grade summer. I smoked pot for the first time. And I remember thinking like, oh, that's what that was. That's what that was.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like a realization of like, that was weed. So like I knew I liked it. I remember like breaking my ankles and my wrist a couple of times, like throughout my childhood. I couldn't tell you when, but I remember getting opiates for the first time, like Vicodins or Percocets. And I remember one time, like my parents left me home, like, from school or whatever, and they went to work. And I remember I ate like the whole bottle. And then like I told my mom like, oh, like I don't know what happened to them. You know what I mean? I remember, and she called and got more. I remember that. Like she got like more from the doctor. I was like, oh, I lost them or something. You know what I mean? And I remember that was the first time where I remember having a dream like being messed up, in that way back then. So it was kind of weird. I just had like slow experiences with drugs though. But I didn't feel out of control until later in my life. So
okay, so let's talk about how did your disease progress?
So progression would definitely be I smoked pot. I just started smoking pot more and more and more throughout my like high school years. And drinking a little bit, but just like a little bit of Jack Daniels, and I was like, wee,
Right.
And then I moved to North Carolina when I was 18 years old, back to North Carolina, and lived by myself I worked for Pizza Hut, and I had my own apartment. And I was like, I was making good money for that. It was like $25,000 a year in, 1999. That was pretty good,
Absolutely.
So I was like, I thought I was doing well, and I had my own place. That didn't take long. It was like 6 months. I started I met the neighbors, and like it was like pot all the time. Like we would smoke like an ounce a week, me and my friends. We would do Percocets, we would do Xanax. We started doing like ecstasy. This was before like Molly was a thing, but like I don't know, the good ecstasy, going to raves and stuff like that. that's when things like really took off. And I came back here. I lost everything in like 6 months. You know, I'm 18 years old. Like, lost everything in 6 months, moved back to North Carolina. And I remember I got back and I stole some of my mom's Xanax. And I remember like I stole quite a few of them and like got real messed up and wanted to kill myself, you know, Xanax, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I started, you know, I wanted to do that. I wanted to kill myself. And I remember her saying like, you have a problem. And I was like, I think I need detox or treatment. On top of that, I was detoxing from all the ecstasy as I was doing too, because I was doing it like every day, all day long. So, and smoking pot the whole time. And I didn't know anybody in Ohio that did that like that. So I knew I was coming out of it. I went to, at the time it was ADS in Medina. It was Alcohol and Drug Dependency Services. And that was the first time I went into treatment. I did an IOP program. I had a counselor. I probably was solid for a good year. I couldn't really exactly tell you, but like we required to go to AA meetings, and that's really all that was around at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to a lot of AA meetings, and I got a sponsor who was 21 and, you know, had like a year sobriety, and, you know, and we slept together. There were lots of messed up things that happened in my world. So it was kind of messed up. And then I tried to fix it. Like I got another sponsor and tried to do it, you know, a little bit longer. And then just like kind of, I met my ex-wife. I ended up getting married I was bisexual, I guess, at the beginning of this whole thing. But I married my ex-wife when we had a daughter who was 6 months old, and I was solid. I wasn't using. I worked for a daycare. Like I felt like I had a good job. We were doing well for ourselves. And then it grew really exponentially, really quickly. So like I remember the first time I did it, I had a migraine, and then I had like kidney stones right after that. So I had Percocets, and it, you know, at the time, like, you know, doctors used to just hand it out. Like you could call and be like, hey, I need a refill, and, you know, well, you've got to wait 3 more days. Okay, you know, like that kind of thing. So he ended up prescribing, and then I just kind of had it on like a refill like thing. Like it was just kind of like that, or I would get like bronchitis and I'd have a cough and I'd get like the syrup and, you know, whatever I could do to get an opiate. And that's when things started getting bad. I attempted suicide twice within like a month period of time. I was hospitalized another 2 times after that. You know, I just had like a really hard time with like mental health. They finally diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. I started taking medicine for that, but I still was like not aware of my addiction. Like I just never really, I like when they were like bipolar, I'm like, oh, I could blame it on that, you know, like I didn't have to blame it on the drugs.
Right.
I blamed it on the, you know, bipolar and all of these things. So over time, I kind of just like started hanging out with the wrong people and stuff. My ex-wife didn't like it. There was a lot of stuff with that. We ended up getting divorced when my daughter was 4. So we were together like 3.5 years. But we got divorced, and it was really tough. I know that there was a lot of things, like I cheated with men while I was with her. You know, I feel really bad about, like, you know, the stuff that I put her and my daughter through. My daughter definitely changed after that, you know, like seeing that. She also saw a lot more than she should have, like the arguments and the fighting and stuff like that. And it was really tough. It's still really tough. She's 18 now, but it's still really tough. You know, I know there's a lot of emotions that go along with everything right now. And then after I split up with her, drinking became like I was a bartender, so I drank and drank and drank and drank. And I did pills and stuff like that and smoked weed, but I mostly drank at the time. And that lasted about 3 or 4 years. And then I went back to opiates and anything that I could do to get opiates. And then I started buying opiates, which was like a whole nother, I didn't know that you could. And at the time they were like $4 for a 5 milligram Percocet, you know, it was cheap. I'm like, yeah, like I'd get as many as I could. I spent a whole paycheck on it. And I remember it was actually like right after my 30th birthday was the first time that I actually like detoxed, like myself, like I detoxed, and it was a miserable mess. And I remember shaking and sweating and having diarrhea and vomiting and like all that. Oh God, it was just awful. And I was like, I never want to do this again. But then I kept doing it over and over and over again. I'm 40 now. I got sober at 38. So it was that the last year and a half. So I started dabbling in, I was like, I'm never doing cocaine. I'm never doing methamphetamine. I'm never doing heroin. Well, we ran out of Percocets one time. I started doing heroin. And then, ran out of the heroin. When it would go down, I could get cocaine to bring me back up. You know what I mean? So then I did that. And then the last year and a half of my total use was methamphetamine, which brought me to my knees. I lost everything. I lost a good job. I lost my apartment. Had to move back in with my parents. My daughter wasn't seeing me as much. I was paranoid. I went into psychosis really quickly. I think as being bipolar and stuff like that, it was definitely really sad watching myself go through that.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really tough. I looked back at videos. My daughter sends me videos of like me before I got sober, like the weeks, she said it the other day, the week before I got sober, and she was saying I was up for 9 days that day, and it was like I was in a whole nother world. I'm like yelling and like making no sense and like freaking out, and I had plucked my entire beard out because like I just took tweezers and would just sit there and just pluck my beard out, but all I had was this weird crazy mustache. It was very terrible. I people hated me. I lied, all my friends. I lost everything to meth. I mean, it was always there. I was being set up for it the whole time with the opiates, but the meth took me to that place. And so then I was bipolar, so I'm like going back and forth. So I thought I was doing myself justice by going up with the meth and down with the heroin or the opiates. So like I would go back and forth and back. I detox for 3 days from meth and then start using opiates. And then when I ran out of opiates, I'd start using meth again. And it was just a vicious cycle. I remember peeking out the windows and like watching people watch me, or like taking my computer apart because I thought like there was like, some sort of people in there looking at me, or like I ran my phone through a lawnmower because I thought somebody was. It was terrible. It was terrible. I remember like my parents like have talked about stories of my sister about how like they would be like they didn't want me to come over and things. I'd be like, let me see your phone. Like there's something wrong with your phone. Like I'd go into everybody's everything and be like, oh, look at this. You can see this. I was like reading Apple Analytics. Like I knew what I was talking about. It was terrible. So.
And so you said that you moved back in with your parents. You had pretty much lost everything. How was that? Those relationships with your parents, your sisters? Were they asking you to get help? Were they encouraging you?
Well, so yes, I think so. Like there was I had like my parents are really, or my mother is really good at seeing the good in everyone, and at the same time also enabling us. So like she would, she'd be like, oh, like you really should look into getting help and stuff like that. But she just thought it was mental health. Like she didn't know about the meth. I don't think anybody knew about the meth. They just knew that I was like really out of sorts. And I think I was really good at covering that up too, like hiding it, like maybe sometimes, maybe not others, but I think there was definitely some of it that they just really didn't know about.
Gotcha.
So I think they hid that. There was definitely times though, like where I actually went in about 6 months before I actually got sober. So it was when I got kicked out of my apartment. I had a breakdown because of meth and went into a hospital, and they were like, you have methamphetamine in your system. You need to go to detox. You should do this. And I was like, no, I don't have a problem, and I would go back and forth, and I felt very like lost. There wasn't anything that I could go to that would be like, okay, like we'll help you with this. You know what I mean? Like I went to a local company here, and like I had a counselor, and she was great, but I would be like, like, hey, like I can tell you over and over and over again, I'd be like, hey, like I think I'm ready. I think I need detox. And she'd go, okay. And then it would be like a bed in a week or two. You know what I mean? And like there just wasn't that connection. you know, and like, and there wasn't a lot. I didn't know about peer support, so there wasn't someone that I could just talk to.
Okay.
And their service, I think, is more mental health based rather than in, you know, substance use based. Not that they didn't do a great job, because I think that they helped me get sober, which is great. When I came out of detox, I went there, but like no one told me like, hey, like you really should go to treatment. So I just did like detox, and then went right into IOP and stuff like that, and like. I really, honestly, like, there's sometimes where I hear people talk about treatment, and I'm like, man, I missed out. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I wish I had that lived experience, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't. I mean, I've seen it, but I don't have that. You
Right.
know, that camaraderie that comes with that, so.
Well, and you bring up a good point. Really, when people, so if we think about somebody having a heart attack, they immediately get the help that they need.
Absolutely.
They don't say, okay, go home and wait for a week, and then we'll go in and
Yeah.
treat this. So, and I think that we're moving in in a better direction
Oh,
of being able
absolutely.
to get people into treatment immediately when they need it. But it's definitely been a process.
Yeah.
So, and as a peer supporter, being able to help people navigate that system is really beneficial, because it's awful trying to go through and figure out with your insurance and whatnot of how to where can I go,
Right.
who has a bed open, and
Right.
and whatnot. So after you went to detox, you went to IOP. Was there anything that really that you think of at that time that was like, this is I need help now,
Right.
and I'm going to change? Was there
Right.
some type of an experience?
Oh yeah. So again, with my counselor, every 6 months, I mean, every couple of weeks, like I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm ready, and then she'd be like, oh, a week, and I'm like, okay, never mind. You know what I mean? And I was going back and forth. So I know now it was in that pre-contemplation kind of level, right? So as time went on, I knew it was getting worse and worse, and my grandparents came to my parents' house, and I hid in the basement doing meth the entire time. I think I saw them one time. I was like, because again, 9 days. I'm like, I was up for 9 days right before I got into treatment. And then I called my counselor and I said, I need to go, and I need to go now. Where can I go? And she was like, it's going to be a couple days, but if you really need to, go into the ER at one of the hospitals here. And I was like, okay. I was kind of like trying to wait it out until the bed came. And I finally was like, I had made the decision. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go. This is it. I've got to go. And I went, talked with my dad, and we were having like a conversation. And I was like, you know, this is what's going on. And the conversation just got heated. And I was high and delusional.
Right.
And I lost my mind, and I threw a giant metal cup at him. And it was like the first time I've ever felt that way. And I told my parents that I took all of my trazodone and I was killing myself. And then I left the house. So when on my way down the street, my parents had called for a wellness check, and I was down the street and they stopped me. I had taken every single piece of paraphernalia that I owned because I was throwing it away. I was ready to make the decision, throwing it away. I'd called my best friend down the street. I was walking to her house so she could take me and drive me to Akron. And I was walking down the street and they stopped me. And they were going to take me to treatment. However, I had a warrant opened for child support abatement. And so I went to jail for a night and then bonded out the next day. And then I had the felony 5 for child support, but I ended up paying that. Everything was fine. My parents helped me. It was good. We got that all taken care of. But I was charged with a felony 5 for 0.3 micrograms of methamphetamine on a pipe that I had.
Oh wow.
So I was charged with a felony anyway. And that was a month and a half later. So I was sober for a month and a half before they charged me. Yeah. It was what it was. I spent 7 days in jail for that. And then I did an intervention in lieu, which I'm really thoroughly grateful for. It gave me the accountability to get where I'm at today. You know, like I'm not hating on it. It wasn't the process that I would have chose to take, but it probably wouldn't be here today if that wouldn't have happened.
Can you talk a little bit about what you do today, kind of on a daily basis, part of your routine for your recovery?
Sure. So right now I work for Hope Recovery Community. I also work for Ohio Guidestone as a peer recovery support. I connect people with services. I do crisis line with alternative paths. I do that 2 days a week. So I have a phone on me. If someone calls and they're presenting with substance use disorder and they call us, or they go to the hospital, they will call us and say, hey, this person may need your services. I help people get into detox and treatment. So I am still like in that world, but my self-care today is so much different. Like I meditate a lot. I meditate twice a day at least. I wake up in the morning, I meditate, and I meditate at night. I do a meditation meeting here. I build Lego sets. That's probably my downfall of element. That's my self-care.
Yeah.
I like to do like a bag at a time. So I'll do a bag a day. So it spreads it out. I get like a big Lego set and let it spread out. So I get a little sense of accomplishment every single day. I go to I have my meetings that I go to that I enjoy. I've started to two meetings, and I'm a kind of a part-time starter of a third meeting that I just did. I do an LGBTQ meeting here at Hope, and I also do a Saturday Night Live All Pathways to Recovery meeting, which is kind of cool. I have certain meetings that are AA meetings. I have certain meetings that are HA meetings. I have certain meetings that are Russell Brand meetings. I try to do like what works for me. And now I'm in a routine where it's the same meetings every week. Sometimes I will mix it up like every other week and do another one in place of. But the meetings work for me. I also I walk a lot. I like the nature stuff. When it's nice out, I just want to be outside. I enjoy spending time with my daughter now. She works at Cedar Point, so we get to go to Cedar Point a lot. I actually have a season pass that I had from when COVID was going on, so I still have that, so it doesn't even matter if she gets free tickets or not. But we like to go do that. I spend a lot of time with friends in the community. I would say, as far as people, places, or things go, I think I only have one person that I continue to talk to that is outside of that was outside the recovery part, but is now she's now in recovery. It was one of my best friends for 15 years. We used together for a long time. When I got sober, she came over to the house one day, and it wasn't her fault, but I said, "Oh no, it's fine." And then she smoked weed, and it set me off, and I turned the music up really loud. I'm sitting on the kitchen floor oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. And we didn't speak for about a year. Her mother passed away, and she called me, and I went and I supported her. And it was such a gentle approach. I didn't push anything. I was just if you need help, talk to me. And over time she trickled in, and she'd come to one thing, and then she'd check out another thing, and she does Buddhist recovery, and now she does meditation, and now she's in full sobriety recovery, and she's working a program, and she has a peer support. And it's really beautiful seeing that from those friends that maybe you used to use with, and then they come around. I've had 3 people that I've helped to get to treatment, and some of them were ready and some of them weren't, and that's okay. They know that they can call if they need anything, and they know that I'm here for that. I'm very lucky to have the connections that I do have, because I'm able to make those money moves really quickly. If we need to go, we just go. So
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So it sounds a beautiful life, and you've talked, it sounds like you do have a job that you love. It's a career that you love. You have your own personal self-care. Hopefully maybe we'll see you on Lego Masters one day.
Right.
And so talk a little bit about what dreams are possible today that would not have been possible in active addiction.
Right. So, one of my, people ask me, what's your favorite thing about recovery? It is driving with a police officer behind me and not have to worry about if he's going to pull me over or not.
Yeah.
I drive like a grandma anyway. So it's great. I think I have almost fixed my credit. I'm working on it. I never thought that and I didn't even start on that for a year, till about a year ago. I have worked on building my credit. I have a checking account that a lot of us don't have. So I have a checking account now that's in good standing. I have 2 credit cards. I'm saving. I would like to save for a house one day. Would be fantastic. I'm getting there. I have a car that I bought. I have, honestly, more than anything, I have peace of mind. I have peace that I don't have to I just don't have to worry about the unknown anymore. There's not a fear of the unknown. I'm still there's of course unknown. So spirituality real quick. So I consider myself an atheist for a very long time. My parents were very Christian, and so then like moving on, especially as an adult who is LGBTQ, all of that stuff, I really just did not connect with religion at all. And I just was like, I'm an atheist. And so like when I came into AA, I was like, I am not doing the religion thing. Like they can take their higher power and put it somewhere. And I was like, I pushed back so hard, and there really wasn't like non-religious meetings. So then one of my friends said to me, he was like, just do spirituality. Just try spirituality, whatever that looks like for you. And I was like, okay. So I started doing that, and it actually like worked, and I started connecting. I did a meditation. They had an hour meditation session at one of the places that I used to go to for another RCO in Medina. And I was like enthralled by it. I was like, I had these like spiritual experiences where I'm like, wow. And even then I was still like learning, but I started experimenting with it more and more and more, and started doing meditations and stuff. Then I started a meditation meeting here, and like I just was reading from a book. Like I'm just reading from a book, and like I had turned music on and stuff like that. Now I have like I have quartz bowls, I have like a rain drum, I have lightning sticks, like, or thunder sticks or whatever. I love meditating, and I love helping people meditate and connect with spirituality themselves. But one of the things that has been like the deciding factor is like every single day now I go, ooh, that's some higher power shit. Because like there are times where I used to sit there and think like, this isn't real, I'm never gonna see that. And now like there's somebody will say something to me today, and tomorrow I'm gonna be like, oh man, that's exactly what I needed to help this person today, or to help myself today, or be able to speak in a comment at a meeting, like, or listening to someone in a meeting. Like I actually actively listen now, like I love that. I never was an active listener ever, and I do, like, especially as a peer supporter, we have to listen to that, we have to take that stuff on. And it's really quite beautiful with seeing that part of me where I'm like, wow, like that was set up just for me. Like that was just for me, and that's, to me, that's beautiful. I don't know.
Yeah,
so.
It really is. So a couple of follow-ups. So over the course of you getting sober and clearly making some pretty significant changes in your life, how was your mental health addressed in sobriety?
My mental health is so much more stable now. I still have my moments. This past week, honestly, Monday and Tuesday were really, really tough for me. It was just a lot of stuff going on, and we were coming up on this overdose awareness. I've lost 3 friends now to overdoses, and one of them was a really, really close friend of mine, and he was in the program when I first started, and it was really hard to, I just got that phone call at 6 a.m. that was like, have you heard? And I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm 40, and he was, at the time I was 39, he was, 25, and it was just had a birthday, had a year sobriety, and just got off drug court. It was like all in like a week, and within 3 days of him getting off drug court, he was dead. And I was supposed to go to his house, and I called, and he didn't answer, and I was like worried, but I was like, oh, he's just doing stuff. And yeah, it was really hard. So
how did you get through those couple of days that were very challenging and not picking up?
So I connected with the people that I have in my life today. I'm very lucky to have, I have 2 really good friends. One is the executive director of Hope Recovery, and one is the executive director of Kathy's House. They're some of my best friends. My peer support friend, Kim, she's awesome. I can call her with anything. I can call all of them with anything, and I have really great supports, even though I'm a peer supporter now and I can't have peer support, we do get to support each other through those processes. So there's times where I call another peer supporter, like, hey, like, what do you think about this? I reach out to people in the meetings. I have, my family, even my mom and my dad. My dad can be a little fun sometimes, but I shouldn't say, don't put that in there. My dad and my mom have been really supportive through a lot of that. And like, if I need something, I can go and talk with them. My daughter's very supportive. I'm very lucky because like, even though there's alcohol in our house, for my parents, like, I wouldn't, it's like closed, sealed, like it's for when they have friends over. Like I'm not going to change their life. Like they don't have to not have stuff in their life with me. But I know that there's no drugs in the house. I know there's no Percocets. I know there's no methamphetamine. I know there's no heroin. So I don't have to worry about that. I think a lot of people don't have that option. They live with people or with whatever that still have active users in their place, and that can be really, really challenging. That's why I actually I always am supportive of recovery housing, because I think it's important for people to have a safe place to go when they get out of treatment. And sometimes that's not necessarily an option, but I'm kind of involved with Kathy's house stuff, and I've seen what they've done with their house and remodeling it, and then I've seen the new house that they just opened, and they're beautiful, and the people that are there, they're successful, like they watching them grow. So like I work at an RCO, Hope Recovery Community, and a lot of them will come here, and watching their growth over time, and even still being involved with my own growth, it's like, like we're the homies, you know what I mean? Like it's cool being a part of that. The community in general here. I've been up to Cleveland. I've been to the LGBTQ center up there. I've been to some stuff in Akron. I don't think there's anything that exists like we do here. I don't know. It's just me, but that's what I think. So
it's pretty spectacular.
It
here,
is.
so.
It is.
You've given us so much amazing recovery experiences, and so I mean, what a beautiful life you have. How did you deal with the trauma that you experienced before in recovery to be at a place that you're in a healthy space now?
Right. So I've been working on my trauma from sexual abuse as a kid for a really long time. Like I just was never really able to do that while I was using, because I still was so messed up that like it just wouldn't take. Like my brain couldn't absorb like what I was talking about with a counselor or whatever. Now, since I've been sober, I actually had she was actually my IOP counselor, and for Ohio Guidestone, and she was also my mental health and substance use disorder counselor. So like I got to know her really well, and she comes from a place of really trauma-informed care, and she helped me to work on different traumas. I have like a thing about things with my neck. I was choked as a kid, so like there was like some stuff that like I don't like people touching my neck, and I don't, and I don't really like having like hoodies and stuff on. So winter is always usually, it sets me off in my moods. Last winter was the first winter where I think I was like pretty solid through the whole winter. I still got a little bit depressed, but I started early, so probably next month I'll start wearing stuff that's a little bit more fitting, or like when I'm sitting at home, I'll put a scarf on so that it closes off my neck, so that like when I'm putting scarves and coats on and stuff like that, it'll actually desensitize me to it. I experienced a really terrible car accident when it was probably about 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and I saw 2 children dead. It was really terrible, and like we were behind. I helped triage it with this guy. It was like a whole thing, and I've been able to work through. She actually had me like write it out and read it to her, the entire incident, which was really, really tough. But it was beautiful. I released afterwards. So my mental health, the stability has come from being med compliant. I take my medicine the way that I'm supposed to every single day, no matter what. I can literally now, I can tell if I missed one, like, oh crap, I didn't take my morning meds. You know what I mean? Like I can feel that now. I don't miss appointments. I show up, and I show up on time, and which is something I never did before, but I show up on time. I don't miss my psychiatrist appointments. I don't miss my counseling appointments. I mean, unless it's something terrible that happened. I have, and I also have, like, again, good supports, good community supports. People will say to me, like, you're a little off today. What are you off? What's going on? And usually, and then I'm like, nothing, I'm fine. Like I'm just like, oh, I can't do it. So we have those moments, right. But yeah.
For somebody who's really struggling, feels like there's no hope, what are some words of wisdom that you found beneficial, that you could share with somebody?
So for the newcomer, progress, not perfection. just come and do it. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. Reach out to people. There is nothing wrong with asking for help. I know that it's a thing, especially with the boomer generation trying to teach us that it's not. But it is okay to ask for help, and you're not going to do it perfect. I wasn't perfect at first. Nobody's story starts out with, "Oh, I walked in and now I'm clean and I've been clean and everything's perfect and everything's wonderful." Nobody's is like that.
Is there anything that we missed that you would like to share that is important for somebody to hear?
You know, be as open-minded as you can be with this process. I wasn't very open-minded to the spirituality piece. I wish I would have opened that up a little bit sooner. I think I probably would have had less issues with my relapse and stuff. And be self-aware. Like, if you're starting to feel like you're slipping or falling, allow yourself to feel that in that moment, in that present, but then be able to move forward in a different way. Stay outside of what is going to happen and stay outside of what is happened in the past. Just stay right in that center. You're here today, right now, getting sober, getting clean. That's what you're doing, and that's the most important part of your life.